Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic podcast. It's episode 659. Today, we got Brian with us. Brian, you want to introduce yourself?
Brian Jackson. Right now, just the co-founder of Forgemedia. It's just a small little, I don't even know what you call it. So I guess it's a little WordPress plugin development company. That's our primary focus right now. And we do some content too, but it's mainly plugin development.
Awesome. And we got Jonathan Denwood, the owner of WP-Tonic. You want to introduce yourself quick?
Yeah, sure. I just love Brian. He's so unassuming. One of the leading professionals in the content production area, and worked for Kinsta, and got a great WordPress plugin shop. So, but that's what I love about Brian. He's unassuming. I'm the founder of WP-Tonic. We help e-learning entrepreneurs build great membership websites on WordPress. Back over to you, Steve.
Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about, as a small player, can you succeed in the WordPress ecosystem in 2022? There's some real big players out there. But Brian's been a player for a while and has kept things lean, mean, and small. So really interested to hear Brian's story. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear from our major sponsor, but we'll be right back. All right, coming back, just heard a message from our major sponsor, Castus, and they have some great deals. You can find the deal at wptonic.com/recommendations. That's wptonic.com/recommendations. You can find some great deals for Castus and some other providers for WP-Tonic. All right, so Brian, let's just jump in here and kind of talk maybe about the backstory a little bit. How Forgemedia started, how long ago did you guys start, and kind of just that early journey before we get into the 2022 ecosystem, just to get a little context.
Yeah, let me actually have to pull up my LinkedIn here, so I want to actually see. Yeah, so Forgemedia has been around since 2014. Like we actually registered the name and like the LLC like way before we thought it was going to do anything. Just because of, any money on the side, we kind of wanted to, like run through, for tax purposes and stuff. Yeah. So the company itself has been around for a while, but we really didn't do much with it other than I had a blog for a while. We have our workup blog. It's kind of like a marketing blog. And then I actually run a gluten-free blog too. And that's kind of why I started the LLC, was just to run any kind of ad revenue and stuff like that through the LLC. And after a while, we, Brett, my brother, who's also the co-founder, he was working for a health insurance type company doing WordPress development. So he was a full-time WordPress developer. I was working at Kinsta as the chief marketing officer. I was doing, all sorts of content, social media, anything you can think of as far as even stuff on the website. I was pushing GitHub commits. I was just anything you can think of, I was doing. After a while, we kept trying to solve things, I guess you could say, on our workup blog. So like we were trying to run these coupons on the side and like dynamically change them. And so we launched our coupons plugin just for fun. Like we didn't think it was going to do anything. We kind of threw it on our own sites, and people started asking, like, can we have that too? We're like, we didn't really plan on selling this, but I guess we can. And so we kind of just, in the evenings for fun, dove into like the EDD ecosystem and e-commerce, and like, how would we, wrap this up into something we could like give to other people. So it kind of all started with the coupons plugin, to be honest. And that we kind of just slowly started building. It was really slow. We didn't like plan to like become a plugin shop or anything. And I was still at Kinsta, and I was most of my challenge at Kinsta was solving performance issues with WordPress. So all the content was related to how to speed up WordPress, how to tweak your site, all that sort of stuff. And so I kept seeing problem areas where people would have just tweaking little scripts here and there and all sorts of stuff. So I asked my brother, of course, who's a developer, it's like, hey, what can we put like all these little tweaks and hacks into like just our own little plugin, like so I can stop doing all these crazy things. And so that's how our Perf Matters plugin was born, was just taking all these random hacks, and obviously we cleaned them up and like thought out of a UI and all that stuff. But we said like, well, let's just try what we did with coupons. Let's, put it in EDD. We know how to use EDD now because we had learned that. Let's just put like a small price tag on it and see if anybody's interested. At the time, WP Rocket, Auto Optimize, there are all these other plugins out there doing this stuff, but we kind of wanted to do our own thing. And being at Kinsta, we kind of were looking at more of the managed space, I guess, because I was working with a lot of just those types of clients, not so much like your Bluehost, GoDaddy, those types of clients. And so we were like, let's just skip caching because these hosts have caching already. There's already great caching plugins out there for free. So like, we kind of like said, let's just do what we're trying to fix on our own sites. And fast forward like a couple of years, that's kind of always worked for us, is like, how can we fix stuff on our own sites? And then like, it seems like people actually want that. So that's kind of always been our business model from there on out. But long story short, I got burned out at Kinsta doing too much stuff. For those of you who aren't aware, like Kinsta grew really, really fast. I'm always more of like a grinder. I like doing the work, and it was coming into like, I was kind of, becoming a manager, and just not a role I really wanted to fit into. And by the time it got to the point where like, oh, can we shift you around to do something now? I was just kind of exhausted. So I was like, I got to take a step back here. And so I decided, we had some stuff going on the side at that point, just slowly built over years, basically. And so I was like, let's just see what happens. The worst that can happen, I'll get my break. The business won't work and I'll have to just find another job or something. That's the worst that could happen. So I decided to quit. And I pinged my brother actually. And by happen chance, he hated his job at the moment. So he was like, I'm quitting with you. So we're like, both of us were said, what's the worst that can happen? We both have at least enough skills to like, hopefully find another job if it all, I don't want to swear, but if shit hits the fan, we'll just go apply for another job. But we went full blown with our plugins and kind of marketing, and my gluten-free site, the workup marketing blog, just kind of everything that was kind of making some money. We kind of just, we were working like 40 plus hours a week on then. And it just kind of kept building and building, and it's never stopped since then. Ironically, we both quit January 2021, like a month before the pandemic hit. So we did not know that was coming when we quit our job. And was it 2020 or 2021? I get the years have just blurred the last few years.
2020 probably.
2020. Okay, yeah.
No, 2019. 20, right? No, man. See, now I'm getting lost in the cycle of everything.
It was a month before whenever the pandemic started. And so, yeah, we didn't know that was coming, but ironically, it turned out really well for us. I guess a blessing in disguise, because it turned out the niche we were in, like people were just, I guess, staying home buying plugins all day, trying to launch websites, and I guess reading gluten-free blogs maybe, or so, our stuff just kept growing through the pandemic. So, and I've heard a lot of that similar stories, I guess, maybe not like super growth, but just like steady growth through the pandemic. For certain niches, especially even like hosting providers and stuff, they just seen like huge growth from the pandemic. I know I've talked with people at Kinsta because I'm still friends with a lot of them, and like, yeah, they just boomed because of that. So it's crazy how that impacted everything. But that's kind of how our business started, and it just, I guess, never stopped since then.
It's cool. One quick question: at what point in time would have you started telling people that you are, a co-founder, run like a WordPress shop, a WordPress plugin company? Like where in that arc would have that happened?
I'm very OCD about social media, so like I switched everything immediately. Like when I quit Kinsta, like I went and changed my Twitter bio, my LinkedIn bio. I like to keep all my social stuff like just like all the backlinks pointing at what I'm working on, just so like any little piece of traffic I can grab or branding or eyeballs is like what I'm working on. I have like a Trello card of like, it's called like bio brand or what I call it. And it has like over 500 links of where like my bio is listed on different sites and stuff. So like if I change jobs, like I literally go through that Trello card and just boom, 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 boom.
Wow. So it would have been when you quitted Kinsta that
when
like,
I quit Kinsta, which was
Okay.
I guess 2020 or 2019, whenever the pandemic. But yeah, I changed things immediately. I mean, I wasn't worried about like if it didn't work out, you know, I just have to change stuff again. I'm not worried about that. And my brother, he's not a social media guy, so I don't even know what his stuff says at the moment. He hates Twitter. He doesn't do any of that stuff. So he's your classic, like, he likes to code all day and you know, he's done at 5 and he likes to go do other things like play Xbox. So that's what he does.
So, Brian, what's been some of the major obstacles around getting Forgemedia up and running and supporting both you and your brother over the past, year, 18 months? And can you give some insights about how you've overcome them?
There was, quite a few obstacles we run into. As a business owner, I'm sure you guys know too that it's just like every couple months there's something new that pops up that it's just like you're just banging your head and it's like, how do I solve this? And it's just, but I think one was, first off, I don't recommend going into a business without a business plan. We kind of just, if you have skills and, like I said, the worst thing that could happen is we'd have to find another job. So I do think there is some advantage in taking risks, because looking back now, I don't regret my decision. I think I needed a break mentally and physically from my old job. And so taking the risk to just try something new, I think it worked out really well. So, and it did for my brother too. So, I think sometimes taking a risk can be good. I think have, maybe a small idea of what you want to do or something. But I think a couple of the challenges we found was I've had a hard time finding time to produce content, which is kind of my true passion, because once I got into the running the business and the plugin development stuff, that stuff just kind of all flew by the side. And my whole goal with quitting Kinsta was like, I'm just going to go blog full time. Like that's what I really like to do. And that's not really what happened. I kind of had to follow where we were making money. And I think if you have multiple projects like we do, where like some's content, some's ad revenue, some's plugin, like you really have to spend your time on what's paying the bills kind of a thing. So ours was like more of the plugin stuff. So that was a hard time, was just trying to find time to write content anymore. And so I've had to like schedule, like, like really get OCD about in Trello. Like I want to at least get this blog post done, like regardless of what happens. If it means I have to, even finish it in the evening or on a Saturday, a Sunday, like just do that. That's been hard. Another thing that's been hard is, for me, I'm a workaholic. I've always had trouble with this. I burnt out multiple times at multiple jobs. And I would say running your own business, it's even a harder thing, because at Kinsta, you shut off and, you don't see the team members. They're all in Slack. So you can step away for some part. I had trouble doing that. But when you're running your own business, it's like, man, if I worked more, I could make even more money. Or like, it's like, there's no margin, because it's all profit for yourself, basically. So if you work more, you make more money. It's an entirely different way of thinking when it's when you, instead of working for somebody else. So I think that I have a good handle on that now. I just that took a little during the pandemic, kind of like figuring out how I can just step away. And I actually shut my phone and my laptop off on Saturdays now, and like I don't even look at emails or anything. So even if I'm just binging Netflix or like I try to go do other stuff, but even if I'm just binging Netflix and I'm not looking at my computer or like answering tickets or doing stuff. So I usually do try to catch up on Sunday. So Monday's not like crazy, but like Saturday is the one thing I just shut stuff off. And I would say at Kinsta that was really hard to do, just because we had a different type of environment, and just stepping away for 24 hours was not something you could do at that point in time. I think now they can because they have departments. But when you don't have departments, it's hard to step away for 24 hours for a hosting company. So for me, it was kind of figuring out the work-life balance. Other hard things was like random like VAT, how to pay VAT taxes and stuff. Oh my God, that was like, I don't consider myself an expert now, but like I know way more than I ever wanted to know about how to pay VAT and the mini one-stop shop. And then I had to figure it out all again when Brexit happened because the mini one-stop shop in the EU stopped taking stuff for the UK. So now I have to do UK through. I just do the UK through the UK government side, and it's just ridiculous. Like the VAT stuff is crazy. And looking back in time, it makes you question your decisions about like should you go with EDD or go with, I forget the names now, but there's other solutions out there that like handle VAT a lot better. Like they're like a kind of a one-stop shop for selling WordPress plugins. And EDD does not do everything. Let's just put it that way. I love EDD, but there's a lot of moving parts they don't think of.
Just a quick follow-through question before we go for our break. Why didn't you look at WooCommerce?
The big reason was performance. I am not a fan of WooCommerce. It's just bloated for what we needed to do. I think WooCommerce is great for a lot of people. But for us, like all we needed to do was like upload a zip and literally distribute a license key. That's literally all we needed. And so EDD does a great job at that and keeping like everything else super lightweight. The problem is with that lightweight part, sometimes they don't do everything as well, which is the tax stuff. So thankfully, I think it's Barnes, it's the plugin shop. They released the EDD VAT plugin, kind of saved my butt on that one. So I've praised them a lot on social because I think they found a niche that like they knew like people were struggling there. And so the EDD VAT plugin is like is awesome. We use it on all of our plugin sites. So I don't know what I would have done without it. So yeah, it's great. I love plugin developers that are like solving problems. So
I feel like I remember a roundtable where you vowed that you'll never use WooCommerce on any site.
I said that, I think on the WP-Tonic show before.
Yep. It's documented.
Yeah, I still stand by that. I will never use WooCommerce. Nothing against it. I mean, I work with clients that use WooCommerce literally every single day. I rarely see EDD on client sites, to be honest. Yeah, it's just I like EDD. I like Pippin, and I like the developers that are on the team. I know he sold it off now to Saeed and WP Beginner. But actually, I've seen some positive changes. Like I've seen their devs like going in there, like change, like let's fix this how it looks in our other plugins. And some of that's not always too bad. I can see them just like trying to tackle all the GitHub issues that have kind of been like sitting there for maybe years. And
Saeed and his team, you know, he's got an extensive organisation. They know with Thomas, I think he's a technical partner.
Yeah.
They know what they're up to, don't they?
Oh yeah. They've done this multiple times. And so I think it's actually going to be really good for EDD because it'll give us thoughts for like analytics because they have their analytics plugin. EDD does not have to know how to do charts. Like that's something they suck at reporting. And so their team does know how to do that amazingly. So like I'm looking forward to seeing all that expertise like flow into the EDD ecosystem.
For sure. Cool. All right. We need to take a quick break here, but we will be right back. All right. Coming back. Quick note, please join us on the WP-Tonic Mastermind Facebook group. You can find out what WP-Tonic is all about. Join the discussion, watch the show, and see the show notes. So diving back into the conversation here, I kind of want to get to kind of maybe some of your views on the ecosystem of WordPress in 2022 and what you're seeing or experiencing as a smaller shop. Is there a lot of pressure coming from larger shops out there? Is there still space for people to operate? Like, what's your general take on that?
I mean, we took a different approach. When we started our stuff, like our goal was we always want to stay small. I think both of us coming from other companies that have been, we both worked at corporate companies. We both worked at startups. So neither of us really like both of those environments, to be honest. And so we're like, we don't want to ever have an HR department. We don't want to hire other people. We don't want to go down all these crazy rabbit holes you have to work with, because it just creates more complexity, more headaches. Neither of us like managing people. We like doing the work. So maybe that's where we're a little different. Some people I know like managing and just telling people what to do so they can just do other things. But I actually like the writing, the figuring out, helping my brother figure out, like, why is this code not working to fix this performance issue. I love doing that type of stuff. So we, from the get-go said, like, we don't want to ever hire people. We want to purposely stay small. Like, we want to just make enough money where we're happy. We can pay our bills. We can, invest a little money, and we're good. Like, we're happy with that. We don't want to become the next huge company or the next multi-million-dollar WordPress theme shop or plugin shop. We just, like, if we have 2 plugins and like maybe a blog and something on the side that makes some money, like, we're just completely content with that. So
do you feel like there's still space and room for that, or is that getting crowded out with these large shops coming in?
Well, no, I think there is. And the one advantage we have, I think, is definitely our support. And I know everybody says this. I know I said that when we were at Kinsta. I know everyone says their support's the best. But, like, we have never had a day yet where we have not cleared out all of our tickets for our plugins. And wow. I don't know of any other plugin shop that can say that. I've worked at a lot of places, and I've seen tickets just going for days. Like, even at Kinsta, like, there's problems that, like, we solve everything the day you reach out to us. Like, lots of times we solve tickets within 10 minutes. And we'll go out of our way to help solve issues. I help people with WP Rocket every single day. Like, it's not even our plugin. So I think and people love that. People really appreciate, like, really good support. I think, like, so if you solve their problem and, maybe they'll basically, you can retain them as a customer. That's the most important thing. And over time, just people really appreciate good support. And if you think about it yourself, like, I would think everyone agrees they like good support. I have to reach out to plugin developers myself when we have issues, and I just banging my head, like, waiting 5 days to hear back from them. It's ridiculous. And then, it's affecting our business because there's a bug with something. So it's, like, having something solved in a day, like, people realize the importance of that. And, and that's worked really well for us. So I think I can't stress enough how quality support is important, especially for smaller players. Because if you want a way to stand out, that is one way that you can stand out without having to, you can't compete against $1 million shop when you're just starting out. There's no way you can compete. So you have to find other ways to stand out. Another way we do our stuff is, and this is a trickier one because we started our plugins over time and then quit our jobs. So, I always encourage people, if you want to start a plugin and sell it, or a theme and sell it, like, just do it on the side at your job. Like, you don't have to rush or anything, and then maybe start building it. And then you get to the point where you're like, I want to take the leap and take the risk here. Don't try just, like, quitting your job and then starting it, because you're going to run into so many problems that you don't know of that exist. Running a business, figuring out EDD, WooCommerce problems, all this stuff will come piling down on you all of a sudden. And I would be panicked if it was me. So figure all that stuff out beforehand, then go. But with that being said, in tangent with that, we also decided not to go on the WordPress repository at all. We decided we want to only be premium. And we knew that, we're going to get less eyeballs and less traffic this way. Obviously, you get a lot of traffic on the repository for free. The problem with that is you also have to provide free support on there as well. And if you don't, you're going to look really bad, because you're going to have all these tickets with no green check marks next to them that people look at. Even myself, when I go look at evaluating plugins, people look at that stuff. So we decided, let's just say premium only, even if it takes us years longer to scale. let's just stay premium. And that's worked really, really well for us, because at least any customer we're working with is paying us something. And so it makes it more worth our time. I'm not a fan of offering free support, but I'm happy to go the extra mile for you if you're paying me something. So,
Yeah.
Even if you're buying our single license for $25, which is not a lot of money, I'll go the extra mile for you. But it's really hard to do that and pay the bills when you're offering free support. It just does not work. And I value developers' time, and I think developers should get paid for their time. So I'm not a fan of the go on the repository, try to upgrade people to the pro version, and then still try to do the free support. It's just a mess, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got a kind of link question before I go to the main question. You've got three main plugins. Has that caused some problems around which one you really, how do you focus your time on?
Yeah.
And which one you choose to develop further? Has that been a learning curve as well? And would you have done it differently?
Definitely. That's definitely been a learning curve, and definitely going back in time, we would have done it completely differently. So first off, we have three plugins: the coupons, like affiliate marketing plugin, the Perf Matters performance plugin, and the NovaShare. This is just social sharing plugin. The NovaShare plugin we actually created and launched after we quit. So that's something we decided to do like after we quit our jobs, and we started building the other stuff. What we saw was the coupon affiliate niche is not very big, and there is not enough people in that niche to actually live on or survive on. There might be if you're the only one, but there's still competition in that space too. So you're always competing against other people. So like you only always have a small piece of the pie. And so that space is not very big. Let's just say that. And so going back, we would have, I don't know if I would say we wouldn't have launched that plugin, or we probably wouldn't have, to be honest. And that's why we launched our NovaShare plugin, because we were saying like, we've done two plugins. We know how to do this. What's something that's like we just hate on our own sites? And I don't want to say hate, that's a strong word, but we've struggled with. And one thing at the time with social media plugins was working at Kinsta. Like I just saw so many social plugins like bogging down sites, which is not what a social plugin should do. Like just these little buttons slowing a whole site down. It's just like crazy. So I had tried like all of the social media plugins, and some do some things really well, some do other things well. And that's kind of what we found with a lot of that's why we've launched our plugins, is we wanted to do it the right way from the get-go. And so we built NovaShare like just with performance in mind, always with the goal to stay simple and fast. That was the goal for that plugin. And we found a really good niche there for people that were struggling with the exact same thing. Like, why is the social plugin slowing my site down? So, people migrating from other plugins to us now, they're literally just, all they care about is Google Core Web Vitals, and all they need to do is share. And they might want like social share counts or Pinterest pin buttons, a few little simple social features. But that's really worked well for us. But as you said, going back, coupons, I ballpark it, it's like 1/10 of our business. So it's like, it's nothing as far as our revenue goes. And I would say it actually has more support than our NovaShare plugin. So, when you look back at the plugins you've launched in themes or whatever, like I'm sure there's always, this one did not work out well. So I'm sure always someone has that. But
you like with that, you got a choice, haven't you? Either you kind of put it on the back burner, or you increase the price substantially and add more specialized functionality that would appeal to a very specialized, but they should be making reasonable good money, shouldn't they? And you become a premier solution at a premier price.
Yep. No, yeah, I agree. And we have, I don't mind saying this publicly, because we were actually even maybe going to put a message on the site of that. Like we have scaled back support on coupons. It's just that plugin too doesn't need like all these new features either. It's like we've got it to a point where people that want it works great for. And obviously we fix bugs and all that stuff, but whereas performance is constantly evolving. So that's when we're just constantly launching new features, revamping things. Same with the social plugin, to be honest, because Facebook's constantly changing their API, and oh my god, that's social stuff has a nightmare in its own. It's you cannot even believe it. But
I'll tell me about it.
But I would say, yeah, devoting your time to what is making the money, I think, is what you really have to do, and that's kind of what we have figured out. But I would say if you're starting out, do more research than we did. Our coupons plugin we launched because people asked for it. We had no plans in selling it or making money from it, so we kind of just evolved into where we are. But if you're starting fresh, do the research. Make sure there's a big enough pool of people out there, assuming that you're only going to get a small piece of that big pool. So if there's not, I wouldn't spend your time on it.
Well, I think it's back over to you, Stim. I think we need to wrap up the podcast, the show, and Stephen's and Brian's going to stay on for some bonus content.
Awesome. Yeah, that's all we have time for today for the main part of the show, but we're going to be moving into some bonus content. You can find the bonus content on the YouTube channel or the Facebook page. And please consider signing up for the weekly WP-Tonic newsletter. You can find all the episodes, show notes, and deals inside of that newsletter. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. And now we'll head into bonus content. All right. Bonus content. Jonathan, it sounded like you had a question that you were going to ask.
Yeah,
if not,
yeah, sure. Thanks for that, Steve. So, Brian, I see you as one of the leading experts in content marketing. How do you see the whole area? Some people, like Friskin, he's been on the podcast and he kind of downplayed. Obviously, he's got his own SaaS product, but publicly he's really hammered that the days of effective content marketing are a bit over by what Google's been doing. I don't agree with that, but I wouldn't publicly argue with him because he's seen as and he is a true expert. What's been your own feelings about how things are at the present moment and how they've changed over the past 18 months at all?
I don't agree with that at all. And the way we've done it is with our plugin shops, even the NovaShare project, which we started fresh, not too long ago, during the pandemic. So it was recent as far as content marketing goes from scratch was, so I don't have time to write, like I said before, but the thing I do have time to write is our documentation. And so what I've done is strategically seen how we can rank our docs that way. So I put a ton of time into our docs. And it's kind of weird to think ranking docs, but you can rank docs, and our domain authority and traffic on all of our plugin sites just keeps going like this because I keep spending time ranking docs. And so on Perf Matters, I talk about things people are trying to fix with Core Web Vitals. It's a popular topic and everyone's searching for it. So it works there. And then same with NovaShare. Every feature, every toggle we launch, every single thing has a separate doc for it on purpose because I'm trying to rank these things. The funny thing is we get a lot of traffic. We have a thumbs up, thumbs down on our docs, and we get a lot of thumbs down from people that I know are not buying our plugin. They're just saying this did not impact, or this was not applicable to my situation at all because and they're hitting our site because they're trying to solve how to disable dash icons or something. Here's an example. And they hit our article and I say well, you need to go into Perf Matters and turn on the toggle. And they're like, I don't have your plugin. So they thumbs down. But that's an example of content marketing.
Maybe they should buy the plugin.
Maybe they should. Yeah, that's the whole purpose.
It's such a good strategy.
Yeah.
Because that's totally how I found Perf Matters. Was I was looking around for how to optimize stuff, and I landed on Perf Matters site maybe 5 times in a single day. And so I was well, I guess they have it all figured out. Let's just buy the plugin.
And I have talked to some people, and I won't say this isn't a thing is I will say I have been in the ecosystem a long time, and like I do have a big following like on Twitter and stuff like that. So like, you know, a new person isn't going to have that. So, you know, when I tweet something, like there's probably a lot more eyeballs on it than someone that's just brand new starting out. So like you do have to think about that too. But I will say like our NovaShare project, that was brand new, completely brand new. Like all the content was completely, we had nothing to start with. And we've scaled that just as well. So it can still work. And like I said, Docs is a good way if you don't have time for a blog. I recommend doing both if you have enough manpower to do both. But there are downfalls of the Doc thing, like the thumbs down thing. And like social sharing is not as great either, because like on Docs, we don't have like a featured image, and it's nice on blogs to like kind of, you know, structure them, you know, really for sharing. Nice. So our Docs are not like the best. They don't look the best maybe. But obviously I don't have time. So
what tool do you use for your docs? Like when you're crafting these docs, are you using a plugin or you're just creating pages?
We use the Hero KB plugin from the guys over at Hero Themes. I've met with both of them for coffee multiple times. They're awesome. I love them. It's just two guys, small team, exact same philosophy, like stay small, just keep growing. And it works. Like there's still really small companies out there that I think they have the same philosophy. They don't, you know, they're not out there to make millions and millions of dollars. They're just, you know, let's make enough money so we're happy. We can set a little money aside and pay our bills and just do what we want for fun. So yeah, I think that works really well for some people. Obviously, other people have maybe bigger ambitions. I've you know, been working at the startups and stuff. It's just sometimes the ambitions aren't as life fulfilling as actually living your life and enjoying it. So,
fair enough. So yeah. You mentioned earlier that like one piece of advice you'd give somebody is to write a business plan. Like you guys started without a business plan. Do you guys have a business plan now? Or is that still something that you need to work on?
We don't have a business plan. But I will say,
I don't either.
Yeah, I will. And I don't recommend this to anybody. I always recommend a business plan, but I feel like if you ask most businesses, they probably don't have a business plan, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of businesses too evolve over time. Like I said, like I always recommend like start it on the side while you're working your job. If you're not even working for a WordPress person, like you don't have to tell them like you're starting a WordPress plugin on the side. My employers knew that I had other stuff going and they were great with it. I like to be open, and obviously I worked in the ecosystem, so it was like going back and forth. But you know, just start on the side and see if you can build it in your free time. And I don't think you necessarily need a business plan, but I think a business plan helps solve all those problems you're going to run into. One thing I will say is I'm OCD about documentation. So even though I don't have a business plan, we use Confluence, and I have our monthly expenses down to a penny of what, like our operational cost is what I call it in the Confluence doc of like, so I know exactly what our margins are, our expenses are, everything. So down to a penny. So I think if you keep track of all of that stuff, it's very, very important. Don't have like these random subscriptions out here floating around that are just always, you know, billing. And if you're small, you really need to keep track of all that stuff. So
yeah, it all matters.
Yeah, it all matters. Yeah.
So what are your plans for 2022? Any new plugins? Just working on the current plugins? Do you have anything exciting in the wings?
Not really too exciting. I think our plugins are definitely busy enough now that we're just going to keep going with what we have. We are working on some exciting Perf Matter stuff. Like we're working on an unused CSS feature right now, which is exciting. Just some other stuff that are like, we see people constantly hitting with core web vitals, you know, that are constantly struggling with. And we focused a lot on JavaScript, fixing JavaScript stuff the last like 6 months. And now we're focusing on like render blocking CSS and unused CSS, those types of CSS stuff. So we kind of take it in like spurts of fixing different goals. So yeah, lots of Perf Matter stuff. NovaShare, we have some cool, exciting, more Pinterest stuff we're working on. that people have been wanting. And we're actually reworking some of our code even in Overture. We constantly go back trying to see if we can even speed it up even more. That's one we're kind of just have fun with, seeing how fast we can get it. And I guarantee that's something our competitors are not doing. So we kind of like doing that. Just seeing if we can can we get the size of our files that are loading even smaller. And that's
when you're messing around with speed and optimization stuff, are you thinking more on the terms of the PHP backend side, let's get the server to run faster, or are you thinking more like Web Vitals front end, what the end user is seeing?
I would say all of it, but we take those definitely in different spurts, or different trouble tasks for those things. Because one is you could be looking, we're using Query Monitor or APM to see how long is this query actually taking. And that's one that would be one optimization. And then on the other end, can we maybe this CSS can be dynamically generated, so that way it's not static on every single page. That way we can get the kilobytes of that file loading down for everybody. So it's stuff like that. And that would be, of course, implies to Core Web Vitals, because anything on the front end basically is going to hurt you at some level.
Yeah.
With Core Web Vitals. Although they have thresh marks where it won't show up until you hit a certain. I mean, this because I think you do a lot of optimization stuff. So if your files are small enough, you should be able to stay off the radar of Core Web Vitals, which is nice. But yeah, front end, always working on that, and we do a lot of back end stuff. Perf Matters is a lot more back end too than our Novashare stuff. So.
Obviously you came on my radar when you were, I think you came on the show, and I would classify you as a friend, and hopefully you classify me as a friend, Brian, even though we haven't ever met in person. But, obviously your work with Kinsta, reflecting back, Kinsta were entering a market with some very, very large players in it. Plus, in the managed hosting, you had a very knowledgeable, aggressive founder, CEO in WP Engine, who really knows his stuff, plus had access to quite large amounts of capital. What do you looking back? What do you see as some of the key factors that enabled Kinsta to build so quickly and take on some of these very large players?
I can tell you, I think if you ask any of the founders, I would say it was our content marketing and our support, which are the two things that took Kinsta to where it is today. And so this is another example. Now I know obviously Kinsta's a little older, but another example of content marketing works. And we, I joined Kinsta when they had 6 people, so it was super small, and they hired me to do content marketing because they were all doing other jobs. The guy that was doing content turned into the CFO after I started doing content. So that tells you what he was doing, all the Stripe billing stuff. That's really what he was doing, supposed to be doing. And so when they hired me, WP Engine, Pagely, Flywheel, SiteGround. I mean, even GoDaddy had managed hosting. There were other smaller companies that even.
Oh my God! Do we have to mention them?
I won't mention that. But there were a lot of those. Were just the big ones. There's tons of. I mean, if you go look at WordPress hosts, there's hundreds, thousands of hosting companies. And so they knew they had a huge hurdle ahead of them. And when I joined their company, I knew it was not going to be a walk in the park. I was coming.
That's one way of putting it.
Yeah, I was coming from KeyCDN, so I was doing content marketing in the content delivery network space. And the reason I joined Kinsta was I really liked WordPress, and I wanted to do more just WordPress. I didn't like all the other very heavy developer stuff. I really like the WordPress ecosystem. And coming in there, I just knew. I looked at everything. I looked at WP Engine's blog. I looked at Flywheel's. Flywheel does a great job on design. better than anyone in my opinion, almost, but they don't do a great job on content. So I looked at all the competition, and just from my experience from past content jobs and Key CDN, I knew I could beat all of them. Like I just knew it. All it took was some time.
Can I just interrupt?
Sure.
And I really feel that you're one of the top experts in this area, but that, on the other hand, that's quite a powerful statement, because, you know, especially around WP Engine and some of these, they must hire, you know, well, I would have thought, maybe you're going to correct me, but marketing professionals that should hopefully know what they're doing when it comes to content marketing. So I'm surprised that your confidence. What? Maybe you can just give a quick insight. What, after you analyse, what was one or two things they were doing wrong, the general competition, that you felt you could exploit?
Yeah, and first off, I don't want to come off as cocky saying
no, but you never do, Brian. That's why I love you, Brian.
There were specific reasons, and I'll explain them, why I knew we could beat them. First off, the most important thing was I got to know the Kinsta team, the co-founders, over Skype. Like the CEO, Mark, he interviewed me over Skype, which is crazy because you think now like he would never interview anyone personally anymore because they're so big. But like I got to know them personally just through conversations and the brand, and I saw their vision after talking with them. And having WordPress sites myself, you know, I was hosting. I was at WP Engine for a long time myself, and I had my own problems with them. And so I knew exactly what the space needed, and I knew Kinsta was going to solve all of these headaches if they did it right. There's always risks. And the problem was, like, how do you get Kinsta, a brand new, randomly named Kinsta? Like, it doesn't mean anything. How do you get this name out there to people? First off, all of those companies, Flywheel, WP Engine, they had grown to a scale where they were all departmentalized already, meaning they were so big. So like you said, they have skilled people working at the head of the marketing department. But what I have found, when you have companies that big, you lose all of the grinding and technical stuff that comes along with scaling as it flows down the funnel. Now, maybe this is not true of any company. I had just seen it with all of these specific companies. So, and what I mean by that is the head of marketing, all he's doing is looking at reports. That's all he's doing, guarantee it. He's like saying yes, no in meetings. He's on meetings all day in Skype or Slack. He's saying yes and no to ideas. That's the head guy there at WP Engine. Now, some of these are assumptions, obviously, but then you have guys that are doing the SEO. That's all they're looking at. They don't care about writing, or they're just doing the technical SEO. Then you have the guys that are hiring the writers. They're going out and hiring random WordPress writers, and then they're working with those writers in Google Docs to try to get stuff in drafts to get to a level that's acceptable. So basically, when you have all this flow through the funnel, you don't have anyone looking at the whole picture, and it's all, I won't swear again, but it's getting half-assed all the way through to the top. And that's what was happening at all of these companies. And so, even though Tom, who's like, he was kind of like the CFO at Kinsta after I came on, he knew this was happening as well. He's very good at content too, even though he's not really doing that. And he knew this was happening, and I saw it too. And we knew that if I came in and just hunkered down for a couple years and all I did was write, focus on SEO, and look at the whole big picture. I worked with Tom a lot in the evenings, during the day, in the morning, and we just looked at this over and over and over. And we had like hundreds of Trello tasks just like in queues. And it was just us two for like years doing it. We didn't hire writers because we didn't want to, you know, let any piece of it go to somebody else. We wanted it all to just be basically us two, and then touch every single piece of it. And so I had an SEO background too, which obviously helped too. But anyone can learn how to use Ahrefs or ZemRush or, you know, these tools that we're using. So I think just having the overview of the whole picture is what helped us scale it.
So just to recap, to see if I understood the fundamental thing that you were trying to come across, what you've just said is, yes, they've got enormous budgets, some of the competitors, but that leads to its own problems because you have divorciation. Is there such a word, divorciation? You need...
There is now.
There is now. I've just done a Jonathan special. I'm notorious for that, Brian. But what you're saying is you end up in these separate silos.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got the SEO guy, you've got the content, somebody that's supervising a group of content writers. But there's no, it becomes fragmented. Where if you've got a more holistic, global at every stage, you can be smaller, but the end result will be a lot more effective. Am I correct? That's a synopsis of what you were trying to point out?
Yeah, and obviously there's probably companies that have solved it better. I just think in the WordPress hosting space, this was not solved well for how those companies scaled. And part of it was maybe because they grew so fast too, because there wasn't, WP Engine, when they started, like they didn't have a lot of competition when they launched. And they probably grew so fast, they didn't know what to do because it was moving so big. Yeah, so they didn't even have to worry about that. And I'm sure Kinsta, to some extent now, like I left Kinsta when we went from 6 employees to like 120 employees when I left, and they have over 230 employees now. So I'm sure at some extent they're actually running into this problem too, where they now have departments because that's what you have to do when you grow that big. And so people are just at the top saying yes, no. You have these writers now writing things. You have, I'm sure it's happening there to some extent too. I'm sure they're trying to stop it as much because Tom is still there, and I'm sure he's still trying to hold what we had from the beginning. So, if you know from the beginning how to do it, it's probably easier to hold on to. But it's going to happen when you grow big, I think, to some extent.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I love Kinsta and I love Tom. I've had to really cut back on any kind of support for them because they've cut back their support for podcasting. And so, but I still love them, but I can't really support them in any practical way because they won't support me in a way. And it is duality.
And it's a problem I think every company is going to run into once you scale. But again, that's why, like my brother and I said, our whole goal, we don't want to hire people ever. We want to stay small because I want to see the SEO. I want to write the content.
I don't agree with you there, actually. I understand where you're coming from, Brian, but I think there's a happy medium where you could grow the company to 10, 20 people and still have a very tight control. Because I'm in with Rob Rowling and MicroConf and this whole bootstrap community. So I think there's more of a middle road. But on the other hand, if you just want to keep it to 2 to 3 people, that's totally...
I would actually, when I say small, I would say like 10 is still small to me. 10 people is still small. Yeah. I just didn't mean like once you get to 100, it just goes out of control.
You're starting to get into totally different territory.
And I think if you have, so it's just 10 is still manageable because the people, like say if you have 10 employees, the people that are working on the content, like they're going to be talking with each other constantly still. And like, there's going to be so much back and forth still, like you can still produce, I think, quality content. It's just, I think the problem is with content marketing these days is people just immediately go to these departments, silos, as you said it, and think that they're going to win with all this money. And they hire the random WordPress writers and they publish it for 2 years nonstop and nothing happens. And it's because all of it's never done to, I guess, the best it could have been. Or they should have just published half that amount of content and done more quality instead. So it's just, I think content marketing is still very, very competitive, but you can still win. It just has to be done the right way. I think people
can't be lazy about it anymore.
Exactly.
You can't just throw content out there. There's a point in time where there was just a void of content on the internet, and so you could post whatever you wanted to, and pick something up. But now I think
Well,
that,
and
that
I know
bar is raised a lot.
even at Kinsta, like people tell me all the time, oh my God, I see your stuff at Kinsta come up all the time in Google. But what they don't realize is I burned out from Kinsta. I had to quit Kinsta because I worked too hard. That's one thing. Second, I worked with Tom. We worked nonstop for like 2.5 years. I was writing from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed. And that was some days from like 9 a.m. to midnight. Like it was not an easy thing. People think like art content marketing is easy.
I do, because I actually,
easy.
that's why I rate you as one of the top content marketing experts in the WordPress space, because I observed, I have some understanding of the commitment that you had to put into that. I do hope that you got well paid for it. That's all I've got to say.
I got paid well, and don't be wrong. I loved my time at Kinsta. I view everything as a learning experience. I don't regret a single choice that I made in my career path. But also, this is public knowledge. It's on my own websites, but I do own a small stake in Kinsta, so let's just show that out there. So I do want them to succeed, even though I'm gone.
I do, and I'm glad to hear that, because I think it would be uncharitable, but I leave that to other people's consciences, that you didn't have a small bit of it as equity. But
that's the one good thing that I think about. The one good thing I do like about startups is that if you do get in early, put in super hard sweat equity, might not be easy a couple years, but like it might pay off later down the road if that company does really, really well. So that's one thing too.
I think it's time to wrap it up, Stephen.
Yep, it's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much, Brian. Really appreciate you being on the show, sharing your experience, and kind of letting us be a part of the journey that you've taken through, working for some of the larger companies and then spinning off your own thing in WordPress development and being a small plugin shop. Appreciate that a lot.
Yep. Hopefully, someone learned something from something I said. So.
I think it's been superb, Brian, and hopefully you'll come back in the late of the year and we have another interview. Sure. Because there's so much to discuss around this.
Yeah.
We'll be back next week with another fabulous guest and another great interview. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.